Okay.
Hi, Akanksha.
Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm really sorry for joining late. I really got to know, there was a lot of technical issues happening. So, our speakers have joined. Yeah,
Okay. Good
welcome.
evening.
Good evening, ma'am. Good
Good
evening.
evening. Yes. So all of you are students, right? So I'm only
Yeah,
just sitting out here. I mean, so all the students, right?
yeah.
Okay. So how about you? You're studying in DU?
No, ma'am, I'm a student from BHU.
Oh, great. Right.
Like this team of us, we have people from different sections of India, from different colleges. It's a very diverse team. You'll
Okay.
find students from everywhere.
Yeah, that should be because it's a diverse topic altogether. Exactly. When I went deep into the topic, I could actually analyze the thing, as in how significant the topic is.
Yeah,
Really.
exactly.
And it's a great effort on part of all of you to go for such a vibrant topic for discussion. I really admire your, you can say, thinking for that reason. Coming up with such a, you can say, an upcoming topic of the day. Really. Really,
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
also in the course of doing, I mean, a bit of, I can say, you will also be accepting that. I did research on it, and I came to, the conclusion that it really needs a lot of, you can say, thinking and good amount of research to actually come out with something productive and constructive.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
Guys, we are live now on YouTube. Akanksha and the speakers, we can start whenever you all are ready.
Okay, so
Yes, just hold on. Is an introduction required when the live session is on, or should we directly start?
Ma'am, I think Akanksha will take care of that.
ma'am, a little introduction, just a little introduction. We'll keep it short for the audience to be well versed with
So,
everything.
who's going to start with exactly? Am I the one?
Ma'am, I'll start. Ma'am, I'll start everything.
Right. Okay. So the live session is on. Right. Okay.
Okay. So Columns and Comics warmly welcomes each and every one of you in this forum of October session in the topic role of youth in policy making and law. We have among us speakers Miss Kamulani Devi. She did her MA in political science from Utkal University, Orissa. She did her MPhil and PhD in political science from Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. She has a teaching experience of more than 10 years. She's presently associated with the RKC College as a senior faculty. Welcome, ma'am. The second speaker for today is Kush Vardhan Demlan. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. He is a student of economics at Hansraj College, University of Delhi. He is a co-founder of Youth Policy Review, a student-run publication exploring various fields of policy, economics, finance. He is the founder of Thrift IT. It is an online marketing place. Okay, so we welcome you all. And today, the topic for today is role of youth in law and policy making. Now, we all know that India is the largest democracy of world with the average age of 29 years. It is one of the youngest country we say, where 62.5% of people are in the age gap of 15 to 52 years. This is the working age period of them. So the people, they are so interested in youth. The youth is interested in the policy making, knowing about the law, but sometimes they have a lot of questions in their mind. So today we have the two speakers who will be addressing each and every question that might have come in your mind also. So this is Akansha Tiwari from Columns and Comics, and I'll be the host for today. Okay, so let's start this session with the first question. Ma'am, the first question is for you. What are the different ways through which the youth can contribute to policy and lawmaking? Ma'am, please. Ma'am, you're unmute. Thank you.
Thank you all of you. of you. Indeed, I would first like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for giving me this platform to come up with my views and ideas regarding a very challenging issue of the day concerning the role of the youth in policy and lawmaking. Right. As in, to start with, these different queries which have been raised in the forum, and one important among them, as in I find it very basic to be dealt with, is what are the ways and means exactly, as you posed it right now, as to what are the ways and means through which the youth can contribute to policy and lawmaking. Right. So let me just begin with bit of a background of it, and then go into the main arena of the issue. When we are talking about the youth of the day, we have to deal the issue with different, we can say, taking into consideration the different domains, the dimensions, the parameters, uh, which can actually help us, to analyze the issue in a more in-depth order. So, youth to begin with, exactly as how do we perceive this concept of youth? Something we can relate to what you can always refer to as uh, beginning stage of life, wherein it is basically the foundation stage, the base where the you can say the root of the uh, person begins with this stage, and it is a very vital stage, and that actually has a lot of you can say effect on the overall development of your personality. So it has to get started from this particular you can say the end, or we can always refer to is at the root stage. So it's of a vital concern when we are talking about this issue, and more so in a democracy, as you rightly referred to it as the largest democracy of the world. Yes, India stands designated there as the largest democracy of the world. But when we are talking about this democracy, are we talking about democracy in the right sense of the term? When we are talking about democracy, are we talking about participative democracy? Are we talking about deliberative democracy? As if we go into this aspect, I find that some way or the other we are lacking in actually getting a true sense of this particular term, democracy. So we have to see to it that where does this lacuna lies and how to overcome it. Only then can we get that we can say a right answer to the question posed as to what are the different ways and means by which the youth can contribute in the process of policy and lawmaking. If you compare our system of operation with the advanced countries of the world, and for that reason, we can make a comparison with the system as is prevalent in USA, we cannot say that we are a mature democracy. Rightly again, we are not a mature democracy. As in why? Now the question arises as in why. If you see the system as is prevalent in USA, it is operating on a system where you can say the main executive head of the state there, the president of USA, he actually, he has a team of officials working under him who are actually referred to as what? The advisors of the president. But the thing, when we come to our system of operation, we actually refer them, designating them into two categories as political executives and permanent executives, right? And therein, the role of the permanent executives, who are again referred to as the civil servants or the bureaucrats commonly, they have a major role to play in the political system of the country. Actually, they are the main support system of the country that way, and we can say the main uh, foundation laying order in the entire operation of the political system of the country. So, where exactly actually the role of the youth comes here? If it is all about a rule of a few, in that sense of the term, a rule of a few who are actually in the scene and operating the entire political order. Where do we actually see the role of the youth here? What is actually where there's the significance of the, we can say, the contribution of the youth lies here. Again, coming to the point there, basically, if we are thinking about from different perspectives, see, in our country, if we go into different domains and start looking at the issue, if a few of the people who have made such large contributions in the country, you see, like to name a few, if you start with in the field of telecommunications, Sam Pitroda, yes, his name stands out very prominent there. In the field of white revolution, yes, Dr. Kurian, he stands out prominent. In the field of green revolution, Dr. Swaminathan has made a major contribution. In the space of, say, research and organization, again, we have prominent personalities like Vikram Sarabhai. Again, the missile man of India, APJ Abdul Kalam. And if you all are keeping track of, like recently we had this UID system, no, unique identification system, wherein we are having this order of Aadhaar, whereas citizens identifying himself as a identification mark of a citizen of a country. These are all major contributions which have been just a handful. It's a contribution of handful of persons, but it has made a major mark in the entire order of the country. If these few persons can make a change, then why not we cannot actually, why not the, you can say, the population which is majorly half of the population of the country, which stands in that order of, you can say, this, as you rightly also referred to as Akansha, the age group of 20 onwards, why can't they come into the order and make certain something, a contribution which stands out very constructive and productive? And therein I find that this is where the system is lacking, when it is a question of the role being played by the youth, right? So we have to seek out the ways and measures, and for that I feel something needs to be done at the ground level and at the grassroots level. Things have to begin from somewhere, and then it can make a march ahead. And yes, exactly. What can be different ways and means? What are those different ways and means that we can think about? We can think about youth clubs, and as in we are talking about youth leadership, we are talking about youth voice, we are talking about youth advocacy. So we have to be very, very pragmatic in our stance, so that things take a proper turn and lead to proper, you can say, result at the end of the day. So we have to begin somewhere, and I rightly feel that these are the forums which is giving a edge to the youth to participate in the affairs of the country. And rightly, I really admire the youth parliaments taking place nowadays. It's very much in the core, and it's giving a good platform to the, the young generation to come ahead and express their views and ideas on the governance system of the country altogether. Being a part of such orders like MUNs, you all are aware about it, no, students. I find that is a very, very good effort being made, and that's going to help a lot in making the right, you can say, contribution for the engaging the youth, who are considered as one significant aspect for a resilient, or to make a mark in this democracy and system of governance by their contributions at different orders and at different levels. So this is my viewpoint. Let's go ahead and see to it at how it can take a, you can say, or how it can go in its order to make a mark for itself.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am, it will surely do. It will surely do. And first of all, thank you. Just not from my side, I think so. I'll thank you on the behalf of all the students because we all over here we participate in so many debate competitions like youth parliaments, but we are not, thanked much for it. But you thanked us, so thank you for mentioning us. So I'll the
Yeah,
same
exactly.
question.
Sorry for the interruption, but exactly, I feel that it is your privilege and you should be getting a credit for it because the amount of efforts that you all are putting to make such forums successful is really admirable and
Thank you.
praiseworthy, right?
Thank you, ma'am. I'll move to Kush for his opinion on this question. Kush, please.
Hi, thank you so much. And first of all, I'm heavily grateful to CNC for having me here. It's a privilege to be speaking. It's a privilege to be talking in a panel next to ma'am who's clearly accomplished so much. And so of course, whatever we're talking about how the youth can get into policy, but like as someone who's probably a young person himself, I'm aware some of this might sound incredibly patronizing. So I'll try and keep, bring my personal experience as much as what I've read into whatever I answer. Now, coming to how the youth can contribute to policy and lawmaking. So I absolutely agree with ma'am when she talked about the crucial role of youth and how important it is for more of us to get involved in, just reading more about what's going on around us, being aware of our right. And I think that's absolutely what I think even CNC is aiming to accomplish and what we accomplish by doing M events and debates and youth parliaments. So I think firstly, I think it's incredibly important that, everyone around us aware of what our rights are and aware of, what we should be doing and what we should be receiving as a citizen. Because in India, there's a lot of stress on, you know, ask what you can do for your country or what the country can do for you. But I think there needs to be a certain amount of stress on the idea that there's also, certain things you're entitled to as a citizen, which you need to be aware of, which you can actually use to contribute to lawmaking. So I'll link that aage jaake. So firstly, I think it's very important to be aware and read. I think especially off late, given how active we are on social media, there's a tendency to just, go and read four or five opinions of people and then copy paste your own opinions and get into debates. But I think it's very important for us to read more, read outside of social media, and maybe go and read the drafts of the laws that are being made. You go and read, let's say if someone's interested in economic policy, let's go and read the minutes of the MPC. I think it's more important to read those original discussions. It's more important to read history of those, policy related history, to understand the context in which things are said and to understand how things are done and to be able to get a broader idea of how, laws are set in motion. But also, I think, how I can directly contribute. Of course, one way is to give feedback. So after every, law is there's a circular sent out in the Gazette of India, which they ask for feedback from the citizens of the country. And I think it's very important for everyone wants to get some things and feedback to the concerned ministry, send the feedback to their MPs. Why? Because especially off late there has been a trend to just push by bills without consultation and to reduce the amount of consultation that's done on certain things. And I think so. The worst way by which every one of us can contribute to policy and lawmaking is just read what's happening in the country, read what kind of laws are being sent out, and send feedback. It has to work. It has worked. You can look at EIE 2020. That's the same thing that happened last year as well. It was being pushed through. There was the laws released were only released in English. I think the draft was only released in English. But because enough of us, started campaigning about it, someone went to court. A lot of us wrote emails, which is why the bill was sent back to a particular institute for it to be looked at again. And I think that's very important. I think the first way one can actually contribute to making a real, tangible change in policy and lawmaking is just reading what's going on and making sure that you try and get your voice heard. It's not an it's probably You probably won't be heard in most cases, but it's important to try. It's important to try relentlessly. Secondly, I think when one wants to get exposure of how these things are handled, maybe just get in, so you just get a real taste of how policy making is done. even one can consider just looking at think tanks and working with think tanks also, right? We have a lot of, because these people actually put out the research that even the government uses in certain things. Right? If you need the Niti Aayog recommendations, you will find references to bookings, to ORF, and that's so basically to go and talk to people who have been involved in policy for so long, work with them, work on people, work on policy recommendations. And I think that's one way one can actually, after reading everything, one can actually figure out, hey, listen, this is what I learned, this is what I saw, this is maybe how, this may be something the government can do or we can do as India to perhaps improve things. That's one way. But I think, but in general, also, I think one last thing that's very crucial is be aware of what's going around you and be engaged with your community, right? So I think a national level is a very far-fetched idea, but let's look at your own localities, right? I think there's certain policies being implemented there also. And I think even at the municipal level, there's things happening. So I think what's very important is to have these discussions in your communities, not only within the youth, but also with people older than you, with also in your locality, in your schools, in your buses, whatever. So basically, just because at the end of the day, when you have, when you engage with the community, communities outside, you understand what the needs are of people, who you understand what your needs are, and you also then can perhaps present better recommendations, perhaps highlight better ideas once you understand what basically the world needs, what basically people around you need. I think that's pretty much it. Just read what's going on, try and work in these avenues and engage with the community.
Thank you, Kush. I think so. Both the speakers mentioned on the fact, and I'll quote what Mahatma Gandhi said, that you must be the change what you want to see in the world. They very rightly said we must use the power of discussion, reading, and being aware. And when we read, we must try to read from the authentic sources, because of so many facts and figures are mentioned. Basically, for youth, what we drive the information from is the social media, and it has a written content or whatever view or whatever medium they are circulating their ideas. There can be a mindset, there can be a aim behind it. That is why please read from the authentic source, because you will have an opinion which will be based on true facts, and you will be confident and proud of the opinion. I'll recommend my viewers that there is an app, mygovernment.in. If this app allows you to send the feedbacks, if please do visit the site. Okay, it will help you to connect with the government in the national level, and in the state and municipal level, please, you have to find the different ways for it. Now I'll move to the second question, and I'll let Kush speak first. The question is, how can we restructure, reform the education system so that every youth is capable of participating in policy and lawmaking, irrespective of their educational stream? Kush, please.
All right, so I think ma'am would be a better person to answer this, considering she's been in the field. But like, I'll still try my best. So I think the easiest way to ensure that I think everyone is capable of participating in policy and lawmaking, because it's no rocket science. It's at the end of the day, it's something that it relates to every individual who's residing in this country, right? And being involved in it, asking questions about it is something we all should be doing. So I think everyone is capable of it. But however, I do agree that there is a certain mindset that's propagated by which, this isn't necessarily the kind of thing that's looked at as a good thing, at least in my personal experience. And in my personal, and so in my opinion there, I think the easiest way to just go about is to stress on humanities further, humanity education. So I've like conventionally, I think humanities is looked at a stream where not a lot of people like to go, especially when you look at some, like, hey, listen, if I want to excel in studies, why study humanities? And I think this convention that's been going on, like, it's in privileged classes, maybe that's not present as much right now. But definitely, if you talk to people around you, maybe people who come to like talk to anyone else, they'll say, "Hey, science, commerce, obvious options." And I think that's a problem. I think it's a huge problem because, in my opinion, the experience of the people around you and cannot be reduced to mathematical formulas. And I think to actually be able to contribute to policy, to actually be able to make a change. It's important to read the social sciences. It's important to go and read political science. It's important to go and read economic history. And I think so. Easiest reformation that's required in the education system is to just look at humanities is more of a requirement than it's currently looked at, maybe in the higher classes. And definitely, I think I'm not one who advocates for compulsions, but I think making studying political science compulsory, or making studying economic history, not economics, but economic history, studying that I think is incredibly important, because even when I went and looked at textbooks from 11th and 12th, I learned about so much, which I think I'm a commerce student, which I did not have the viewpoint, which I did not wasn't able to understand earlier. And I think though that insight you get can actually help the youth contribute to policy making and to be better citizens and be more helpful to people around you. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Okay, so I think so the new national education policy will help us solve this issue, because till 10th standard we all have humanities, but somewhat, it just limits us to getting cramming that thing and getting the marks. Okay, but in plus two, it kinds of people become so rigid in their mindset, and this I can tell you from my personal experience. I belong to science background, and I see people around that once they are into the different field which is not kind of related to the subject, they stop talking also about that matters. Their it's so rigid, their mindset is really rigid, and that needs to be changed. So I think so the national education policy will help us. And now the
Actually,
same
I'll
question.
add one thing here,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it happens so much that people actually do not care about what is
yeah,
going on in the
exactly.
other subjects. And it should be a general thinking. There should be some basic things that everybody should know, and everybody should, compulsorily know them. As to, because in life there is no particular thing only that will help you. Might I be a humanities student or a commerce student? I might come across science someday or the other. I do not know. Some basic things I think should be known to people rather than to being ignorant.
Yeah, exactly. Because we are not a mechanical person, right? We're not robot. We need to be aware about every single thing that is happening around us. And for the same question, now we are just moving towards the next speaker, our experienced teacher. I think so. It will be interesting to hear her point of view in this question. Ma'am, please.
Ma'am, I think you're on mute.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Coming into the second query of yours, as is reflecting on the question, is what should be actually done to revamp the educational system or restructure the education system, which will actually help, you can say, motivating the youth and being or helping the youth in being an active participant in policy and lawmaking. Exactly, I feel so that the education system needs a revamping there, or restructuring, in other words, because what exactly, I mean, just confining myself to this particular topic, I would like to give my viewpoints here, that it is basically the top-down approach which is being followed, which needs to be actually, given another direction altogether. It's actually the top-down approach leads to a lot of, you can say there is a lot of rigidity in the entire order, which uh, leads to that kind of mindset, which all three of you were discussing just now. Something needs to start from the we can actually relate it to like a bottom up approach there, again, the emphasis to be laid at the grassroots level and at the ground level there, to entirely, make up the loopholes and the lacunas which are coming in the way, uh, rightly. So the effort has to be made from the base level again, as far as reforms are concerned, and it has to be a shift from a hierarchical structure to a more, you can say, collaborative, and you can say a shared decision making process, wherein you can say youth will get a right. platform to come up and share their ideas and views. That's a requirement. And yeah, rightly saying, the new education policy which has come up, the 2020 education policy, rightly pinpoints at that particular aspect, when our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has come up with this concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So when he's talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat there, you see that the main focus remains on creating that self-reliance. You can actually pinpointing it again, the developing of the skill, the entrepreneur skill of the students, the vocational skill of the students. So that is the major issue that needs to be discussed upon and to be pondered upon when we are going by this order of making a change in the education system, or we can say restructuring the education system. In my viewpoint, it has to be somewhere. I mean, I would like to go with this view of actually starting the, you can say, the mission from the base, and then moving upwards into the hierarchical order. So that is going to make a lot of changes, and that is going to have a major impact altogether. So the point lies here that it has to be all done at the root level to bring about the desired change, which is very much a need of the hour, and
Very
more
right.
so to involve the youth in the decision making process, wherein they can they can actually realize the leadership ability of theirs and come up with profound ideas and views to bring about the desired order and desired change.
Very rightly said that we need to change from the grassroots level, and the first change that can come is in the change in the mindset, that no matter what are we reading, what our profession is, we must be concerned to know about the policies or what is happening in our country, because this is the land where we belong to. We have the authority in this land, so we must be aware about it. So please read, be aware, and be involved. And moving on to my third question, first, I will ask Dr. Devi to answer this. The question is: are there any opportunities for people who want to contribute in policy making externally? Because, see, in the government sector, we have the three organs, right? The executive, the judiciary, the legislative. But if we as youth want to be involved at it as external level, then how can we? Ma'am, please.
Yes, exactly. I'm happy. I'm actually satisfied with that explanation of yours. Uh, yeah, exactly. If you, when you're talking about involving the youth externally, as in, can you be just more specific about this query, Akansha? Can you be just more specific about it?
Yes, ma'am. Like, what will be the different ways? Like, we may not be the part of executive, judiciary, or legislative. We may be the common people. But as being a common people, how can our voices be heard and make a difference? Is there any way to reach to it?
Yeah,
Apart
Any
from
exactly.
feedback?
anything, apart from the government services, like
Yes,
even the
exactly.
bureaucracy too, even keeping the bureaucracy aside, how can a common man or a college going student, if he or she feels like that something needs to change or there should be something of this sort and he or she wants to put his or her opinion forward, so how should he go or she go?
Exactly. Again, it is my this question is again interrelated to the other two questions which we have already discussed about. A platform needs to be created for them, but where are they going to start from? And this is basically the reason why today, when we find in our democracy, as I was talking about, democracy not in the real sense of the term, wherein the attitude of you can say, wherein we are lacking is political social. I'm coming from the spectrum of you can say the political system of the country, where a major role has to come in there, because we are talking about policy making and law making there. uh, you see that there is always that there is this gap existing, and the major role that the youth wants to play, they are not getting that platform, they're not getting that you can say the uh, space where where they can come up and express their views and opinions, and that is what is leading not to a development of a healthy, vibrant, and resilient democracy, but it is altogether a different order which is coming up, and which is actually proving to be a great loss for the country. When there is a students, you all must be aware about this very fact that uh, brain drain is like a drain in the brain. Rightly said. So brain drain is like a drain in the brain, and it is exactly what is happening. The major man force and major manpower that the country has, why are we actually looking ahead to pursuing our professions and pursuing a career, when we have if we have that kind of a facility in our country, then why are we actually making a move to other countries, and that kind of a migration thing which is occurring more so when it comes to that educational sector basically. Why are students trying to actually look out for avenues outside the country? Because then they are finding something is majorly lacking there, and something a void has been created, a gap is existing, where they are not able to be all onto themselves. So that is actually leading to a big drain on the resources of the country. No doubt we are talking about so many different kinds of resources, but one among those resources is actually the role the youth that is playing today. And it is a big loss for the country that way, because we find a manpower existing in different countries of the world, and they are actually making a big contribution in some way or the other. We have to stop this somewhere, and in order to stop this, the efforts have to be made, and ways and means have to be chalked out for it. Basically, I again feel that to come up with a healthy concept of a democracy, and that is government, rightly again as quoted by Abraham Lincoln, government of the people, by the people, and for the people, is not something existent today, and we have to bridge up this gap, and we have to actually uh, chalk out the ways and means by which we can actually uh, do the fill up the void.
Ma'am,
So,
I have a question if you might allow.
yeah, exactly. I'll just give a hearing to you, Yash. But then, here, I feel that these platform needs to be created for the platform itself is missing. Actually, the platform is not existent, and even if it is existent, it is at a very minuscule level, which is not in the awareness of the people, and that's more so about the youth, and they're not getting that culture, they're not getting that socialization process, which is actually leading, or which helps out greatly in your political participation and your political awareness, that is lacking to a great extent. This is my viewpoint, this is my personal viewpoint maybe, but then I feel this is one major factor which is causing an obstacle and hindrance in the way of development of the youth of the day. And something needs to be done very, very constructively and productively, so that this brain drain needs to be stopped, and actually we can make the right utilization of the manpower that India has, and that can lead to great advancement of the country in different ways. Yes. Yes,
Ma'am,
yes.
I had one question to follow. Ma'am, like today's youth find itself very exhausting to, be a part of policy making due to certain conditions. Because if a youth wants to come forward with some change, so what he or she has to do is be an activist of that particular social area and fight for it, make protests and make happen revolutions to be heard. So, what can be some possible ways that things can be easy for them and they can be heard? Because, like the activists that I know, I have few of them in my contacts because they are wildlife activists and they have struggled and fought for so much that to protect the environment, to conserve the animals. They have made protests and then they have, they have been heard by the government and then certain amendments have come. So it is a very long way and a very kind of a long way to go through that is not achieved easily. So, what can be sort of those measures, or what kind of things can be done to make these situations easy for the youth?
Yeah, things, as you are rightly pointing out, yes, things cannot be an easygoing order for the per the present scenario which is existing. And really, what you are saying exactly is going to that extreme end of fighting out for one's right to be heard, exactly, to be heard. So again, the roadmap is not easy to cover actually, and that is what is the reason why we have to go to that extreme end of actually, extreme end of making the, you can say, muse of our talents to achieve the target. So I feel, why not these, if it's just a matter of, I can say, a solution kind of a thing, wherein the student wings, if you are talking about these student wings in different colleges and universities, you are very aware about how productive are they and how effective are they. I find that is a good medium. And like you have for the you have the Congress wing there, the NSUI, you have the ABVP, right, the BJP wing there, you have the leftist wing, the SFI, the ISA. They can be actually used as a medium, if I'm not wrong. And I do not know what is your perspective altogether as students, because you are more in associations with them. And I find them that this can be a more flexible mode for students to raise their viewpoints and get ahead with their voice. These can prove to be good channels for them, because I find that present scenario is something very disturbing, because these organizations which are existing for the upliftment of the youth and for the well-being of the youth are actually being, you can say, politicized to a great extent, and the real purpose is not solved for which they have come into existence. So we need to revitalize the entire order and bring about a new thinking in the entire order, in order to expect something, you can say, constructive. And I find these channels will work out if some reforms can be made into it, and certain measures can be adopted to refine the same.
Very rightly said, ma'am, that they are reforms, they are platforms that are being existing. But the thing is that they need to be reformed properly so that the purpose that they have been built is fulfilled properly and not politicized. Also, ma'am, I would like to know five major reasons why what you think is responsible for brain drain. Because when you mentioned about the brain drain, I think so. It's like, what should I say? It's such a big, I don't know. It's not good for a country. Our talents are going outside, and it's not always not because of choice, but sometimes it's just like for better opportunities. Please, ma'am, if you can mention five reasons, five reasons for brain drain, it will be very good to hear from your side.
Not exactly five reasons. I do not know whether I can come up with something, you can say, satisfactory five reasons as to what is the scenario and why is it happening. But basically, reason on a very major reason for this is because they are not getting that. As I rightly again said, they are not getting that kind of, say, the avenues which they are aspiring for and which they ought to have, in spite of having the talents, in spite of having the knowledge. They are not able to utilize it in the right way and the right order. And that is something which is, you can say, motivating them to pursue their aims and objectives abroad. So that is one of the reasons, basically, because they find that there no one is there to hear their voice and can give them the right opportunities to, explore the potentialities, abilities, and capabilities. So that is another reason which is actually leading to this kind of situation. So what you exactly is saying is, in search of better, if I'm not wrong, you quoted avenues, in search of better avenues. Yes, Akansha.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, rightly, the search of better avenues only, and that is the reason why they are in search of the better avenues, because that is something which is not prevalent and that is not existing in our country. So they're looking ahead to that, and basically from that point of view, we have to create, as I said, we have to work for it. We have to make an effort for it. We have to start from the base level. We have to bring in reforms. We have to revitalize the entire order so that they are aware that they are being given a hearing, and and the system is existing for them, and only then a change can be thought about.
Yes. A lot of change has to be done and made, and it can only be made if we discuss things. And I'm so thankful that the speakers today, took out the time from their busy schedule and are talking on such an important topic. And I'm sure that the viewers will find this session so useful. A lot of things will also come up in their mind and they'll also start thinking about it. And I'll move to the speaker, Kush. What is your view in this question, please?
Hi, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
please
you're
go
on.
ahead.
Sure. Thank you. Cool. So I think just continuing from what ma'am said, I think it's incredibly important to control the brain drain that's happening. I think it absolutely stems from the lack of opportunities in the country. It's very important to stop that. I think more an active involvement in the student political wings is something that's one way to get into politics and perhaps influence policy making. I think it's also the easiest way, especially for people like us who are in colleges like the University of Delhi, where this political environment is very active in a way. I think so. Perhaps taking away the negative image associated with politics and with student politics in general can be one way to get people there. But I think a more direct way, perhaps, of which I have seen people around me do, which perhaps is I would just recommend people to do is, as I recommended earlier, also Square, there's multiple think tanks that are working actively in policy research and in legal research, which need people, right? And which actually publish drafts and publish recommendations, which are then taken on by the government, by the head think tank, Niti Aayog, and which actually can, in the long run, does translate into policy making. So I think one way of being for people like you and me who aren't actively involved in the three, three wings of the government. I think the easiest way is to go and work at these think tanks, go and intern at these think tanks. There's no bar with respect to your stream also. You can go and learn from people. You can go and push out recommendations. But also, I think one more way of getting involved is working with political consulting firms. I think one very famous one is IPAC, and then there's also NWN Nation Memo. I think political consulting is something that's coming up really new, and I think while IPAC has generally been associated with elections, NWN for a fact does actively engage with people at the ground and creates recommendations that are then acted on by the government, by the people in the ministry. Right? So I think one more way by which people can contribute to policy making is joining these consulting firms or political consulting firms, which do engage with political parties and which then do engage with the government and get things done right. I think there's no bar, there's no examinations there, there's no stream bar there. You can go and actually do the work you want to do. And I think it really opens, I think from the experiences of my friends who worked in these fields, I think it really opens your eyes and and once you have good recommendations, once you have good contributions, people do listen. Pretty much it.
Yeah, very well. First of all, the most important thing is being curious. You have to be curious to know what is happening around your society. Platforms are there, resources are there. You have to avail it. And please don't be rigid, in your mindset when you want to explore these out. It's just not meant for one particular stream, it is meant for everyone. We all are citizens of this country, and the country works only when we want to work. Okay?
People
So I'll move
need to
on.
show concern
Yeah,
regarding
very.
their
Yeah,
daily
we need to
lives.
show concern.
Yes.
It's our country. We need to work for this country. We need to be involved in this country. So my next question will be, the question is to Ms. Dr. Devi. By mere observations, there has always been a divide between the private and the government sector, be it in the individual themselves or the policies, and India at least. How then we are hoping to include the private sector individuals, among others, to help the policy changes which are in chosen government sector. Ma'am, please.
So, going by your question order, it is basically how to bring in the private sector domain into the public sector order there, uh, and how is it going to help in, you can say, creating the right order for the youth of the day,
Yes, ma'am.
uh, involved in the policy and lawmaking process. Uh, if we are talking about that thing, then it is basically now to ponder more over the, you can say, the options which are available in the as a part of corporate social responsibility, which is a mark order of the day again. So even you're talking about the corporate social responsibility, and wherein the private organizations are making a headway there or taking a lead there, they can be a lot of, you can say, significance in uh, chalking out the right direction for the youth of the day, engaging them in multifarious activities and helping them to explore for themselves. So I feel that the corporate social responsibility concept can go a long way in imbibing the principles and the values, which is actually the requirement of the day, and inculcating in the youth of the day a sense of can say building up a political culture in that way, exactly, to be rightly said, a political culture, and that will help in the political socialization of the entire order. Because where you find the voice is to be raised and voice is to be heard, the leadership has to come somewhere in the picture, and this can come only when you can provide them the best training ground. And I find that corporate social responsibility can go a long way there, providing them that training platform, and training them in the right way and right order, so that they can explore out their potentialities and capabilities, and make a contribution for the society at large. So the very important concern remains the how they develop their values, their ideas, their views, the belief system, their orientations for the entire governance system of the country. And so this needs to be built up very, very, you can say, and this needs to be given a strong foundation, because unless and until the values and the belief system becomes strong, and your values for your system of the country is strong, you cannot associate yourself anyway. So that is going to play, I believe these are the two forums, basically your political socialization and your political culture making, which goes a long way in making you a part and parcel of the governance system of the country. So that needs to be incorporated, that needs to be inculcated, and that can become, or that can happen only when these these private sector organizations give come up with new avenues and new ideas and new innovations, and because they have that ability to, you can actually capture the good resources, and that can be actually utilized for a more gainful effort. This is my
Ma'am,
perspective.
thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, there will be one question that I want to ask. There was a recent news that how the Pepsi manufacturing plant is shifted its base from Kerala to Uttar Pradesh because of the trade union thing. It is like a too much involvement of political culture. So how can we prevent that so that it's like results into the better efficiency in work?
That is a output, I can say, after effect of political culture that is taking a shape, right? uh, but can you be more specific with the question that you came up with?
Ma'am, like there when you talked about the political culture in the government sectors, we have seen, like I'll give you an example of HEC. Like because of the trade union thing, the people were involved in so much of the political culture in a wrong sense, basically. Because of that, the efficiency of the power plant that which existed, like 20 years, 30 years back, it's not there right now. So how can we stop them? Like if we bring the political culture in it, so will the trade union thing and the drawbacks of it will also bring in? So how can we stop that?
The political culture that I'm talking about is about building up an affirmative and positive bent of mind there. Yeah, exactly. That is required. Cannot be used in the negative sense of the term there that way, and that is leading to a lot of, you can say, the fallout of it being all the kind of evils which have cropped up, and rightly said again, a threat to democracy. Yes, yes,
Yes.
if you remember. So threat to democracy in that way, leading to so many kind of you can say evils which have cropped up out of it in form of casteism, communalism, regionalism, factionalisms, radicalism. Yeah, presently used terrorism. Actually, that is also fallout of this political culture. I find that is
Yeah.
a great factor, leading to all these menaces of the day. And that is why the kind of a culture that is again an effort again has to be made that way, that the culture which is prevalent and the culture which is existing needs to be modified in such a way that it is taken to be in its positive sense. It has to have a positive result out of it and not in the negative anyway, which is leading to all this kind of evils which is actually threatening the very governance of the or the very governance system is at stake in that way because of these evil fallouts of the mm, thinking and the mindset which needs to be controlled and which needs to be put in the right direction.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
exactly.
I do
Every
have a question to follow up.
yes,
Sorry
yes.
to interrupt, Akanksha.
Continue.
That ma'am, basically what happens that people who come from a public sector background, be it students itself, if they are studying in public funded or public universities, and people working in the public companies, public limited companies, what happens is that they are more inclined to whatever happens in the government, and they're inclined in a negative way, as in they have rigid stances of their own, that we belong here or we belong here. Well, what happens with the people in the private sector is that they just don't care about what is happening. They will deal with anything that is happening. So how to sort both these issues which are parallelly, kind of worsening the condition of our country? A probable solution, ma'am.
Yes, somewhere then we have to draw a line there. Yeah, exactly. A line of demarcation already exists between these two sectors. A point lies where to merge them. And it is actually a difficult and rigid task to merge the two orders which are stand at extreme ends. So, any kind of a solution to that, to bring in these two, you can say, widely apart sectors into one domain is a very difficult thing to do. And uh, as long as they are standing apart, I do not think it is in any way leading to any kind of uh, you can say negative fallout of it. I do not find it in any way this is actually leading to some kind of rift or uh, gap between the two. So the public sector is in its own place, the private sector is in its own place, and I think both both can work collaboratively somewhere. They have to collaborate, and they have to, you can go with a calculated measure where things can you can say prove to be ultimately it is for the development of the nation that they must work for, development of the people that they must work for, and that can be done even if they stand apart in their own extreme ends. That can be done, and as it also is happening in the present day time, being that two poles apart also, they are having their own fallouts. So
Ma'am, it is not about the fallout. As in, I'm trying to say is that we have problems with both the public sector and the private sector itself. The private sector just does not care about what is going on, where they should, take concern as their own duty to participate in the political structures or political field. While as what happens in the public sector is that they team up with a particular ideology, a rigid thing, and they start politicizing things, and that is just making things worse. So there is problem in both the ends that are working. So what might be a probable solution for the private sector, that they can show in their concern, or they can participate with equal enthusiasm as the public sector, and what probable solution is for the public sector people who do not, so that they can stop politicizing things and stop, being so rigid about things.
When it comes to the private sector, there again, students, when it is coming to the private sector, the main motive of private sector is what? How do you go about with these ideologies of liberalization and privatization and globalization? Because it is always the profit making incentive which remains the main concern, core concern of the private sector, right? So how then can we actually think about that, you can say, concern of like merging the two there, uh, uh, no matter what our goals and objective remains, but um, how do we actually try to bring about that, you can say, bridging out the gap and bringing the two sectors into one domain?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It's just like,
No, yes, yes. Sorry, I'll excuse you.
uh,
We have time constraints, so let's not take up the question further. So, what ma'am exactly wants to say that there are two sides of the same coin. We have the plus, we have the minus, and ma'am clearly mentioned about all those aspects. First of all, what we need is to choose it wisely, and we need proper laws so that at the end we get the best result out of it. Now, we will move to Kush to know his opinions on this question. Kush, please.
Hi, thank you so much. So I think I do to an extent disagree with your assertion that there's a divide between the private sector and the government sector. I think that engagement definitely exists, but I think that engagement is isolated to a certain extent. In the context that you'll have industrial houses lobbying, you'll have industrial groups lobbying, but it's restricted to the interests of these particular firms. Right? And I think so. Like pre-liberalization, the people who are the most opposition to the LPG policies were the Tatas and the Birlas, right? And I think so that kind of engagement has always existed in the public and the private sector, and I think so that isolation is also always existed, and I think that's a problem, right? And I'll tell you why that's a problem. I think if you look at the private and the public sector, I think let's look at policy making related to business, for example, like economic policy, for example. So I think in that regard, there's multiple stakeholders, right? I think there's the consumer, there's the management, and there's the worker, and then there's the government, and these a couple of more stakeholders. I think what we need is for all of these stakeholders to have a conversation and not just one or two, right? I think, and that's where I think even the idea of unions comes in. I think, of course, unions have been politicized, and of course, I think for someone from a libertarian point of view, perhaps unions aren't necessarily the best thing when it comes to economic efficiency. But I think, in my personal opinion, I think having trade unions is one more way of getting there to be some sort of level of interaction and engagement between the public and the private sector, because that's when you go ahead and have the representation of the interests of the worker as well. Perhaps you can work on mitigating the politicization to a certain extent, but I think in a democracy, politicization is inevitable. You can never stop it because because I think there's a tendency in India to look at politics as something foreign, as something that is something that needs to be done by people. I think there's a mindset of the people also to just allow things to be done to them, and I think that's something that I don't personally agree with. In my opinion, I think it's important to embrace that politics. And for every person to actually engage with the people around them and go ahead and take political stances and to politicize things. So I think so to to perhaps reduce that divide between the public and the private sector, I think we need more conversations from these stakeholders which are missing out. I think from the consumers, from the workers, which are being reduced, especially in the states you've mentioned. And like of course they're having it in Kerala and they're missing in UP. Two opposite ends of right in this particular arena. I think that needs to happen. But also, I think earlier Vanchika and I were having a conversation about how the same thing also exists with the public education sector and the private education sector, where people. I think this is something I was having. This was something I was discussing with someone from CNC early. I think so. Perhaps so for to perhaps reduce that gap between even let's say people from government colleges perhaps going for more public policy, like going for civil service and private colleges are not doing so. I think there needs to be a reduction of the opportunity cost that's linked to being going into civil services, right? Because in my opinion, someone who's spending 15, 20 lakhs on education does not necessarily have the time or the risk-taking capacity to take 2 or 3 years to study for an exam they might not clear. While someone who's like someone from privilege who's coming, who will only spend like 20, 30,000, afford to do that. I think there needs to be a reduction in opportunity cost by either increasing the government spending on education or by increasing the number of vacancies you have in these civil services. I think the former is the better way to go about it. But I think so both ways. Isn't necessarily linked to the topic. This is something I wanted to add. So I think both ways that's how you reduce the divide between these two forms, between these two sections. I would say.
The time constraints hit us hard when we are discussing these kind of topics. We really need to have a lot of time so that we can form an opinion. I'll move on to the next question. And Kush, I want you to answer first. The question is, the only quality or the major stance that the youth will lack, no matter the abilities, it would be the experience. The youth will be lacking in experience. So how long or how much can we let experience take a backseat in quantitative and qualitative terming in our drive to be more passionate and a lot more enthusiastic in law and policy making? So, Sharon.
Cool. So I think I agree with you that on the idea that people like you and me may not necessarily have the experience that's needed.
Kush, you need to check your audio.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's okay.
Hanji. So I think we don't necessarily have the experience, but in my opinion, what we do not have an experience we make up for an exposure, right? And I think so. At least in my personal experience in conversations, people are older than me. I'm more involved in debates and discussions about things going on around us, and people like my parents were, or my elder siblings were, or my cousins are, right? And I think that's something. So even when we do have people who've been in this space for years, we also have people who are more active within their communities and are engaging on the ground level further and are perhaps in a way more exposed also through social media, through the internet to things, trends that may not necessarily be, may experience people may not necessarily be looking at, or perhaps may not be resorting to because when you've been doing something for so long, there's a certain way you look at things and you don't want it to change. So I think what we don't have an experience to make up for an exposure, and I think to have actually to improve the sphere in India when it comes to policy and lawmaking, what I think what these two things need to do is marry each other. So you have people, so when we have more active engagement, so like I talked about earlier, when you have more people engaging with their communities, when you have more people putting out recommendations through think tanks, when you have more people involved in political unions, then naturally you will also have some sort of engagement between the people who have experience and between the people who are up and coming. And I think when these two merge and when these two actually join forces to gets, let's say, when it comes to policy making, I think there's no need for either one to take a backseat. I think you can have efficient and you can have really cool outcomes there. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, very well, very rightly said. I just want to give an example. If experience was everything, then Neeraj Chopra wouldn't have won the gold medal in Olympics, right? It was his first Olympics, and we saw that the other players were much more experienced than him. Its ability also matters. And I'll move to Ma'am for her opinions on this question. Ma'am, please.
Yeah, exactly. As hearing to both your viewpoints, experience does matter, and it needs to be imbibed also. To achieve a particular goal or objective, experience counts a lot. And how do we visualize this in the context of the discussion of the day? That is the role of youth in policy and lawmaking. As in, this remains a concern of the day. So, should we be focusing on that more than any other concern? This is my viewpoint, my perspective. and we need to actually come out with a solution at the end of the day, as in how fruitfully can it this forum prove to be, you can say, uh, effective and efficient for the youth of the day, and how best they can make use of this forum. Experience goes a long way there, and both quantitatively as well as qualitatively, the youth requires or is in need of that experience, which can help them up and come up with their you can say the vision which is making of a vibrant and resilient democracy of the day, and getting themselves actively, you can say, being active participant in the order of the day. Experience does matter a lot, and we should be actually giving them the best of the experiences that we have. And in terms of like today we are sitting here together, we are sitting here together in the platform, and we are exchanging our viewpoints and views. So that is amply going to help the listeners, if not you can say on a major scale, but at least to some extent they can imbibe certain views and ideas, and you can say look forward to a changing order, which is a requirement of the day. That is where I feel that it does, you can say, needs to be focused upon, and does play a very positive and affirmative role in bringing about the desired changes that we are honestly looking ahead to, or looking forward to.
I think so. We can all agree that the raw abilities need to be channeled, and it can be better if it is channeled by an experienced hand. We need both of it, experience and ability as well. But I'll just want to say, everyone out there, that if you're not experienced, please don't make it as let it be a hindrance in your coming out and expressing yourself. You will definitely find someone who will channel your ability into best of it. And
Exactly.
I'll move. Yeah.
That's very vibrant expression on your part, and I credit you with that, actually, Akansha, to come up with such a prolific idea and share it in the platform.
Thank you, ma'am.
I do
I'll move
agree,
on to.
and
Okay.
I do appreciate your idea about the example that you have set forth in we're talking about and giving a setting an example of Neeraj Chopra, who has really really created a history of the day by actually making a big, you can say, or going by the order of a big achievement that he has, and making the nation proud
We
for
need both
his.
of it. We need both of it. We have raw energy, we need experience. Only then we can work together holistically. I'll move on to the last question, and the question will be to Dr. Devi. What what is assurance step or procedure the youth shall be aware of once they put forth the same in policy and lawmaking? I would like to explain this, ma'am. Like, when we voice our opinion, we need to have some kind of assurance, just not only in the say of, physical, but also mental, emotional, and also that if the time and energy we are investing it, is it worth it? That's the question, and I'd like your answer.
Yeah, exactly. That is something to do with the feelings and emotions more than with the external view, you can say, viewpoint there. It is something very, very essential, because we are all at the end of the day human beings, and we do have those. You can say the inborn quality, right? When we are talking about the feelings and emotions, and we feel that something and somewhere platform is required where we can come up with our views, and it can be given a patient hearing, and you can say our views are taken into consideration. Yeah, the government of the day needs to be very aware about this particular aspect, that it's not just about talking, but in doing something practically out there, no. So no doubt, the uh, vision of creating, as I said, this Atmanirbhar Bharat, which I was talking to you about, it can be realized and it can be fructified only when government takes these you can say the concern which matters, the which again revolves around the feelings and emotions of an individual, that needs to be respected and valued. Only then something you can say constructive can happen. So exactly, that assurance has to be given to the one and all, that okay, the efforts are being made and that you will be heard of at the end of the day and that your views will be counted. So that is essentially what is the requirement. Only then you can say that the zeal and the enthusiasm props up, and that can lead to a better result. So I find that that assurance has to come from this system of governance, and the people who are in the governance order, they have to assure the individuals of the day uh, that whatever they are doing and whatever they are feeling will be heard of and taken into consideration while making the policies of the day, and that is ultimately what is the motto of a welfare state, where we live or we are all a part and parcel of it. So this is what I feel, that yes, the voice is to be heard, and right direction is to be shown, so that it ends in a light of the day as we rightly go by.
Yes. Kush, your opinion on this question?
Yeah, I think I agree with ma'am. I think there's only one way to go about it is to just make sure that people who you're trying to reach out to are willing to listen to you, right? And of course, then one can assert their way through political parties, the student wings, and you can get into a certain space. But I think at the end of the day, there has to be a certain willingness of these, of either the bureaucrats or of the politicians to be able to listen to you. But I think that assurance is not something we can count on or we should count on, right? I think policy making in general, because I think for a few reasons, as individuals, firstly, we don't necessarily, have the kind of bandwidth that's required for us, to perhaps make those decisions that are being executed at the national or at any level for that matter, because there's always people doing it. So I think while it's important that people listen to you, I think it's also important that people don't, you know, I think the expectation to listen should be there, and I think the expectation to act on it should not necessarily exist, especially for individuals. Because I think policy making, especially in democracies, is not just about, hey, listen, one person said this has to be done. I think you need to have, and you need to show how basically whatever recommendation you have, whatever thing you're proposing, can actually benefit people more than just people those around you, and can actually be a valuable contribution to to just the whole society as a whole. So I think, of course, I think what parties need to do and what bureaucrats need to do is be willing to listen. I think that trend has vanished, especially in the past few years. And I think it has generally been missing also. I think we as Indians don't necessarily want to listen to anyone younger than us. I think that exists in the family, I think that exists in the government and sphere also. But like, I think that needs to change. I think people do need to start listening, and I think people like us need to be okay with listening to a no. And I think when those changes start happening, and then I think that's when perhaps we'll be able to better contribute to the sphere as a whole.
It was great to listen to both of you. I'll request all the viewers who are listening. It's YouTube live also. If you have any questions, please write it down in the chat box. And meanwhile, I like our speakers. And first, I'll go on with Kush. Whatever thing you want to say, any extra thing that you want to say on this topic, please go ahead. It's your time.
Sure. Um, I think I've actually been very thorough with the whole question, and I don't necessarily have something to add. Perhaps if ma'am wants to go first, and then maybe I'll add to whatever she has to say.
Okay, then, ma'am, please, it's your time.
Exactly. No, it's a very, as I said, it's a very challenging forum here, as in we could come up with a very challenging issue of the day. And rightly, I actually would like to congratulate, these initiators of this forum, who have come up with such a topic of discussion wherein I find as a teacher also we are so very confined to theory, and we are learning so many different aspects of it, as in it is just limited to our theory, to it's limited to our just the textbooks of the day, as in we have to come out of it and apply it in the field and see to the result. And I think so beginning has to be made somewhere, and I find this is a beginning for me, giving me this opportunity to speak and giving me this platform to speak. I find and I something if I can do on my part to really bring about this positive change and a positive you can say fallout of the thing, I will be more privileged. And I find that if I now have developed that kind of you can say an an attitude that at least I can make use of it, and as in making use of this particular platform and gathering the ideas and carrying them forward to the students, so that at least I can be beneficial to them in that way, and uh, doing justice to this forum at the same time. So as in I would also like to hear from all other present in this forum as to what are your views regarding after listening to each other specifically, how do you all think about this issue, and what is your viewpoint exactly regarding it, how can further go ahead with this and to make it a practical you can say reality of and a cause of concern for each and everyone, right?
Kush, what do you want to say? Or before Yash, if you want to say anything, as ma'am said, your opinion also.
I think let Kush say first, then
And I think, cool. I think I don't necessarily have anything to add again. But yeah, I think I'd like to extend my gratitude to CMC for having me here. It was a very eye-opening, mind-opening discussion, and I hope whoever's attended has something to gain from it. Baki, Yash, why don't you weigh?
as a student, it was a very fruitful session. As to like, Kush is basically a senior to me, and Kamalini ma'am is a teacher whom I have personally been a student of. So the views and opinions were already, always stick to the syllabus. But first, it was the first time my interaction with ma'am with something that is out of the topic and out of the box. And gradually, yes, there is like many things that I personally need to uh, come up with and apply in my daily lives. Like first of all, is the basic concern of doing something with your own will, as in you need to start at some point of time. You can't just sit around and wait. You need to explore things. You need to show your concern basically. So both of the speakers used, be it Kamalini ma'am with Kush, they have been very helpful to me, and I believe I can say this for everyone who is present in this forum and who are watching the live session and who will be seeing the YouTube session afterwards as well. So I think it was a very great session, and if I might request everyone to just give a big smile so that I can take a screenshot and let people know that how fruitful session it was. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, I also want to add that it was so great listening to both of you. And what I'll say that every big thing starts from a thought, and thought arises when we have a discussion on it. And today we had a discussion on such an important topic because, as a youth, as an individual, me, I can say that when I see people around, we all are somewhat interested in knowing what is happening in our country. And if we are not, I think so, we must be because this is our land. Come on, this is our land. We have to be interested in it, and there's so many resources out there, but people are somewhere they do not know about it. Be it your different sides, be it your different political wing. In school level, it may be your debating society. In your college level, it can be different programs and these kind of things. Please take part in it, discuss. Your thoughts and views will make a difference, will definitely make a difference. And that's all what I want to say. And before I end this session, there will be just one question that I want to ask, because since we are just from a festival hangover, I'll say, ma'am, how was your Durga Puja?
Sorry, I didn't get you. Akansha,
Ma'am,
please
I
come.
just okay, ma'am, I just want to say, like, just before I end this session, I want to just ask one question, because we are in the festival mood till date. How
Yes.
was your Durga Puja? How you celebrated it?
Oh, great. As in, I have been, this was not actually a festive break for me exactly, because I have been engaged in doing some of the other, taking up some of the other tasks coming my way. As in, I organized one MUN just few days back, and Yash was very much a part of it there, giving his all inputs and feedbacks. He's a very good speaker indeed. And I really appreciate Yash views and the platform that he shared there the other day with the students, and one of our participants managed to secure a position in the uh, recently held MUN. Uh, Greatly indebted to you, Yash, for that reason. And I look ahead to another MUN following up in a few days again, and that's the MUN of MGD, Maharani Gayatri Devi. So looking ahead to that and making certain preparations for that. And at the same time, to be more honest here, again, I was actually looking ahead to this platform of today's also, and gearing myself up so that I can contribute. And contribute my ideas and views, and it can be of some help to the listeners who all are listening to me today. So that was what I was all about, engaged in different multifarious activities. So exactly that festive, you can say that fervor. I was not able to actually, enjoy it to the fullest, but yes, to some extent, really, it was there, right?
It was said that a soldier is never off a duty. We see a soldier here. He was
Yeah,
never off a
exactly. I'm
duty.
never off my duty. I'm always on duty that way, and it is really I like doing that, because it keeps you engaged, and it is ultimately, if I am of some you I can be of some, you can say, I can make some kind of a contribution which will be helpful for all of you. Then it is my privilege, and really I'm thankful to all of you to give me this platform and to listen to me patiently and give me a patient hearing. Thank you, all of you.
Ma'am, we are thankful to hear to you and always will be. Kush, how was your
And I'm looking
festival?
ahead,
Yes,
exactly. I'm looking ahead to other such enriching sessions wherein I can be a part and parcel of the, you can say, the forums. And if you feel like, do invite me for further
sure,
talks and
ma'am.
further
Sure,
discussions.
sure. Kush, how was your festival?
I had a good nap. Well, I don't really celebrate Durga Puja, so I had a good nap. And yeah, but like, and of course, I've been freelancing at a couple of places I was working. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Not much.
Okay, we all have celebrated it in our own ways and we are happy. So
Yeah.
let's end this session. And it was so, so great hearing you all, guys.
Thank
Bye
you so
bye.
much.
Take care.
Okay,
Bye
then.
bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
all of
Bye.
you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.